Let's get straight into this. HistoryOutThere.com. This bloke is brilliant. He tells us stories, local stories, and he's going to take us back down to the Bremer River where there's body parts involved back in the 1860s. G'day, Harold the H. Peacock.
Yeah, how you going, Danny? Please don't get scared today. I know you got upset last week, but I just want to tone it back a bit today for you.
Well, it was a great yarn last week. Did you get much feedback about your yarn?
Yeah, well, of course, it was the brothels. People asking about that. And Jake, the zombie fan, he apologised. He hasn't been up the Ipswich yet, but he is planning a trip to find those zombies.
Well, let's talk about the 1860s. This is a murder, is it?
Yeah, that's right. It's down on Bremer Street, next to the Ipswich brothel that I told you about last week. This was where body parts went flying that resulted in one of the high-profile cases of the 1860s.
Wow.
The case was prosecuted by none other than the Queensland Attorney-General, Ratcliffe Preen, and the colony's first Chief Justice, James Cockle, because that's how important it was to the government that they got a conviction. Now, Danny, I should warn you, parts of the story may be disturbing.
All right, well, let's do a warning out there to everybody. This could be, this really upset you, so be listening and get upset.
Yeah, that's right. So it was in 1866, and Patrick Ryan was brought up to the Ipswich Police Court and charged with having assaulted and beaten David Thompson with intent to do him actual bodily harm.
Wow. The
trouble started at the Sawyers Arms Hotel on Bremer Street, opposite, you know, where the remains of the old wharf is today?
Yes.
That's exactly where this happened. So, and it was over a gentleman's game of bagatelle. That's a game sort of like pool, but the balls
you roll your
there's
balls.
numbered holes and there's poles in the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was the event happened over that game. Anyway, Ryan and Thompson started scuffling in the hotel and, of course, were turfed out by the licensee. The disagreement continued out on Bremer Street. The two men began wrestling and rolling around on the ground. They attracted a pretty big crowd. When Ryan was on top, that's when he took Thompson's right ear in his mouth and bit it off and spat it out in the gutter. With Thompson's nose and ear bleeding profusely, Ryan stood up, said that he'd had enough. He walked over, picked up the ear and threw it away again. Now, there were loads of witnesses, Danny. And one was Patrick Moran. He was a labourer from Toowoomba, and they all confirmed the same version of the story.
Right.
Now the arresting officer was the Ipswich constable, Michael McCarthy. Now, you might remember him from last week. He was a young constable who the year before, in 1865, successfully went undercover and gathered evidence of prostitution at the brothel just nearby. Anyway.
There's no body parts missing there.
Yeah, that's right. But in this case, McCarthy's evidence from the brawl gave some clue as to the cause, and it was quite graphic, so I should warn you again at this point, Danny. Now, McCarthy said in court, and this is his actual statement, that when he charged Ryan with assault, the prisoner replied that he would kill him or any other. English. And would be satisfied to be hanged afterwards, though. English wretch wanted to trample on him, and he would not allow any English to beat him. And so then it appears that the cause of the altercation was an Irish-English sporting rivalry over the bagatelle table.
Wow.
And the outcome of the trial was that the jury found Ryan guilty, but with a strong recommendation for mercy on account of provocation received.
Wow.
And as it turned out, the one-eared David Thompson probably shouldn't have been in the hotel anyway. That's because he was on the management committee of the Pine Mountain Congregational Church. And things didn't get any better for him because later this same year, a tree that he was chopping down fell on top of him. He suffered compound fractures and had a number of leg bones sticking out. And the hotel witness, Patrick Moran, a couple of years later, he lost half his tongue when a sheep jumped on him at Dalby. Oh. And the convicted ear biter, Patrick Ryan, he ended up doing pretty well after this by getting 200 acres out at Mount Whitestone. So, Danny, Ipswich was a well placed back in the 1860s, and even the Attorney General and Chief Justice couldn't always get the outcomes they wanted.
Mate, your story, isn't he brilliant, Peter, how he builds?
Love him.
You think it's over and he goes, bang, here's another part of it. Where do you find this stuff, Harold?
Well, you only got to walk around the streets of Ipswich and you are inspired, especially down on Bremer Street, where this happened.
Good on you, mate. So you've got a website, a Facebook post called History Out There, and you'll post this tomorrow?
That's right. First thing tomorrow, historyouthere.com. Photos of the main players as well.
And the ears.
The ears, yes. And look, if you see Harold and you know him and you're getting around the streets and you're in the mall of Ipswich today and you see him yell out, Harold the H, peacock, and just watch people zero in on you and think you're an idiot. Okay, keep your radio...
And let's get some idiot photos together too. I'm happy to do selfies.
Rightio, all right. Harold the Hates. Good on you, mate. Really great story. HistoryOutThere.com. You are tuned to West Bremer Radio.